Hey, it's me, Egbert. EGGBURT. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
John, I'm going to ask you a question. I know you're going to make a joke out of it, but do you know who Hung Chow is?
I won't make a joke out of it, and no, I don't know who he is.
Okay, I guess I'm saying the last name correctly. It's spelled C-A-O. I give it would be K-O with Chow or something like that. His first name is Hung, okay?
I would call it Cow, yeah.
Cow, okay. Here's a background on it. Retired Navy Captain Hung Cow came to the United States as a refugee from Vietnam in 1975. After a few years in West Africa, Hung moved to Virginia as a child and is proud member of the inaugural graduating class of Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology in Alexandria. He was commissioned as a Special Operations Officer. He's an explosive ordnance disposal and deep-sea diving. He is a bad dude from the United States Naval Academy and served with special operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia. Hung's non-combat assignments included balancing the Navy's $140 billion budget at the Pentagon, working with Homeland Security and the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. Hung received his master's degree in physics from the Naval Postgraduate School and fellowships at MIT and Harvard. He and his wife, April, are the parents of 5 beautiful children. After their 13th move across the United States and around the world, Hung and April moved their family to Purcellville, P-U-R-C-E-L-L, I guess that's Purcellville, Virginia, where they have been active in their community and church. Okay, the reason I bring this up is you don't know the name, most people don't know the name, but he has gotten himself very popular on the internet and especially on the reels and the shorts. Can I play you a couple of his great quotes? I played one of them to start the show. I don't know if you heard it.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's one. You ready for this?
There's 2 truths in the world, okay? Never walk in a Target store wearing a red shirt, and never go against an Asian when it comes to math.
Did you hear that okay?
No, I didn't hear it.
Oh, you didn't hear it all? Hold on a minute.
Nope.
Here, let me hold on. I hit the wrong button. Let me run it one more time. You should hear it now. Okay, here we go.
There's 2 truths in the world, okay? Never walk in a Target store wearing a red shirt, and never go against an Asian when it comes to math.
Okay, did you hear that?
That's terrific. You played that as the lead into the show. That's where I heard it.
I did. Okay, here's the one that's gotten everybody sort of buzzing. You ready for this one?
I am.
Here we go.
When you're using a drag queen to recruit for the Navy, that's not the people we want. What we need is alpha males and alpha females who are going to rip out their own guts, eat them, and ask for seconds. Those are young men and women that are going to win wars.
How about that?
That seems pretty fair, right? And I guess so. Let me guess. He's being accused of toxic masculinity and, I don't know, stereotypes or something?
To the 42nd degree, yes. It's because of the fact that he's essentially saying, we need warriors. We don't need DEI. We don't need, and because, once again, the Navy got into trouble because one of the destroyers and one of the aircraft carriers, they had a guy who was doing drag shows and stuff like that. And you know what? You think about that, and it's like, I don't know. To me, what you do, there's a thing about any kind of time you have a job, okay? I'm the kind of person that unless you're robbing banks in your time off or you're, stealing cars or carjacking people, if you're like doing things in your off time that maybe some people would raise an eyebrow to, that's your own thing, right? Now, unless you're running for political office, okay? But it's gotten to the point where you hear anybody who's in the military, they talk about this all the time, that the military's gotten so DEI sensitive. And, and once again, what he says, this thing here, I'm going to play one more time. And this is, he's taken a lot of criticism over there. Here we go, one more time.
When you're using a drag queen to recruit for the Navy, that's not the people we want. What we need is alpha males and alpha females who are going to rip out their own guts, eat them, and ask for seconds. Those are young men and women that are going to win wars.
Okay. If you're looking at that from a very practical standpoint, he's exactly right, don't you think?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And Brad, I think what it goes down to is maybe we could tie military recruitment to union recruitment. Now, you've mentioned, too, how over the years you've seen union recruitment go from, what you would consider auto workers and pipe fitters and traditional union folks to organizing fast food workers and St. Louis public radio employees, things of this nature. So when you're facing recruitment, you have to lower the bar. And so you're gonna do more DEI stuff. You're gonna have men who are a little bit more limp-wristed. You're gonna have male and female recruits who are fatter, slower, probably a little dumber to get into your ranks. Imagine if you were a sorority or a fraternity and you couldn't recruit top-notch students anymore. You'd have to lower your bar and get more mouth breathers and chubby kids to join your group. I guess that's what's happened both with unions and with the military.
Well, the thing that once again, I don't quite understand the whole KWMU thing where they joined the Communications Workers of America. The CWA was like the guys that work for, AT&T, putting in fiber optics and telephone lines and things like that. I mean, to me, the natural one that would have been after SAG, which is, what most of the people who are, on-air talent at KMOX and things like that. I don't understand that whole deal. But see, once again, I don't get the whole union thing. I'm not against unions. Once again, I will say I've been in 2 unions in my life, and quite honestly, the unions did me no good whatsoever. And they didn't fight for me or anything like that. So be it. I didn't expect that. But the thing that bothers.
Now, so Brad, let's go back to this guy. So what is he running for? And what is does he have? If he's running for something, does he have a chance to win?
Oh, he's running for Senate. He's running for Senate. He's United States Senate. He's in 2022 he ran for United States House of Representative elections in Virginia. I don't think he made that, but yeah, he's running for Senate. And the crazy thing is, he's getting some traction because of the fact that, keep in mind, in Virginia you have a lot of retired Army people, or military people in general.
For sure.
Because a lot of people, especially on the East Coast, if they're stationed at one of the East Coast in the Navy, the various ports up and down the East Coast, and obviously in the Virginia area, you have a lot of retired Army people, a lot of high-ranking Army people who retired. I mean, I shouldn't say Army, I say military people, because a lot of them worked in D.C. and the Pentagon and things like that. So he's getting a lot of traction for that. And what's amazing about it is he's one of these stories that in 1975 he got out of Vietnam, and if you know, that's a key date because that's when essentially we pulled out of Vietnam and South Vietnam fell to the North Vietnamese, the communists, and everything just went away. We, if you watch the horrendous videos, or actually they were filmed back then, the horrendous film of the helicopter, the famous one on top of what I think it was the U.S. Embassy in Hanoi, where people are trying to get in a helicopter, and then you saw the situation where on the aircraft carriers, they're literally pushing aircraft off the aircraft into the sea because they have so many aircraft on the deck of this aircraft carrier that they don't have enough room for more aircraft. So they're just pushing, like $1 million, at the time Hueys, big helicopters, I would say even back then, probably $1 million machine. They're pushing them off into the ocean. And and that's where a lot of people who know their history, when we saw our retreat out of Afghanistan, was the same thing. It's like, only there we just left the stuff. But he's doing pretty well. The odds makers are going like, he has a chance. To me, I've heard about him before, and he's a brilliant guy. You heard his credentials. He's got a master's degree in physics. You don't go to MIT and study physics and get a master's degree. His quote about 2 things you don't do: you don't wear a red shirt in Target,
That's true.
and you don't argue with Asians when it comes to math. Because that's the stereotype of that. But anyway, Hung, and how would you say it again? Cow? Would you say it that way?
Yeah, I would pronounce it Cow. Yeah, and it looks like he's definitely going to lose. He doesn't have a shot against Tim Kaine in Virginia. But I mean, he's getting a lot of attention, so that's good.
Right.
For him.
I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be down the road. I think he's going to be an asset somehow or another for the Republican Party because obviously he's running as a Republican. Because if you remember Tim Kaine, he was. There's a guy that sort of disappeared off the face of the earth. Tim Kaine was Hillary Clinton's vice presidential candidate in 2016, and a lot of people said, I'm watching more and more of these crazy videos of Tim Walz. I mean, if you see some of these weird videos where he's showing up...
I don't think there's a video of him that's not weird.
Well, Brad. He shows up at some thing and he's got a hunter's hat on. He's at the podium. He's not like doing like he's walking in the field or stuff like that. He's got a hunter's hat on and he's got like flannel. And I'm going like, okay, what is this? Is this guy trying to be like, Joe? And then there's the picture, which is pretty funny. funny. Don't do this with the gun guys. Do you know the whole story with him where they have him hunting and he's got the shotgun? And he
Yes, I heard this, but explain it again.
well, he's having a tough time, and if you hold on a minute, I'm coughing. He's either unloading the gun or loading the gun, but he's having a tough time. And what's interesting about it is someone asks him what gun he has, and he says it's Benelli A400. Okay, do you know what the brand name Benelli is associated with?
I don't know.
Benelli is a sub-brand of Beretta, and it's expensive. If you go and look on any of the gun sites, if you look at some of the discount gun sites, an A400 Benelli, take a guess. What do you think a shotgun would go for like that? An A400. You probably don't even know what an A400 is, but take a guess what that shotgun would sell for.
$400.
It's in the $2,000 to $3,000 range. This is an expensive.
Oh, wow.
Benelli shotguns are not cheap. Matter of fact, if you have a Mossberg or a Remington, they're the $300, $400, $500 shotguns. But when you get into the Benellis, there aren't too many Benellis you can get for under four figures. Matter of fact, I think pretty much all the Benellis are going to be. There's some of the shotguns Benellis that are pushing $10,000. Some of the very expensive ones, and he just looks like. Matter of fact, it's Dana Lash. I saw a video of her where she's dissecting the video, and she's talking about, he's got brand new orange vest on, he's got brand new pants, he's got brand new shoes, and once again, my old boss, Ron Grubbs, who was an interesting character, but his father was killed during the Korean War, and his uncle, his father's brother, essentially raised Ron to a large degree, and his uncle Bob, was a builder. He was a contractor, a carpenter by trade, and he built houses and stuff like that. And Ron would kid about the fact that you never want to hire some guy who shows up to work at a construction site. He's driving a brand new truck. He's got on brand new Red Wing shoes. He's got on brand new Carhartt, pants and shirt, and he's got brand new, or they call it bags, but he's got a brand new tool belt, with brand new bags on it, and all his tools are brand new. You never want to hire that guy. You want to hire the guy that shows up that has the muffler hanging down, and it's on there with a coat hanger. He's got his
exactly.
That's the guy who's going to be the good carpenter. You never want the guy who shows up with new stuff. So the whole thing is, to me, is and everybody's making fun of the McDonald's thing with and there's been a big controversy. Just think about McDonald's. The corporate came out and say, we didn't endorse that, but we were asked. Did you hear that part of it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I did see that, and I guess internally they put out a letter to franchisees. I didn't read it, but I saw it.
Right, and then the whole crazy thing is some reporter dug up the fact that particular McDonald's had flunked a health inspection. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I saw that. Of course. And by the way, point to a McDonald's in the metro area that at some point in the last 2 years hasn't failed a health inspection.
But any restaurant, because here, I'll give you a perfect example, not necessarily restaurant inspections, but FCC inspections. Dave Obergainer used to be the chief engineer here in town for Gannett, which owned at the time when J.C. Corcoran was over there, 93.7 KSD and also KUSA. Okay, one time an FCC inspector showed up, and Dave was like by the book. I mean, Dave Dave's still in the business, but he's not here in St. Louis anymore. Dave ran super clean operations. And this FCC inspector shows up and went through all the stuff, how we normally trick people. There are certain things that FCC inspectors would look for. And he couldn't find anything. And he said to Dave, I am not leaving till I write you a violation. And
that's the spirit of America.
And literally to the point where they went down to one of the transmitter sites. And I remember Dave telling me this story. He got out a pair of binoculars and looked at the tower beacons, and one of the tower beacons had a crack in it, so he cited Dave for improper obstruction lighting. And I'm going like, okay, whatever. And now is that what government should do, to the point where a guy shows up and says, I'm not leaving till I find a violation? The crazy thing about that is that I drive around, like OSHA, stuff like that. You and I have talked about this before. I drive by and I see construction site, OSHA violation, OSHA violation, OSHA violation. Because, and why do I know this stuff? Because to a certain extent I have to, because some of the stuff we do with tower climbing and stuff like that ultimately I'm responsible for. A tower crew shows up. One tower crew I had show up, and this is pretty interesting. One tower crew shows up. The first thing they did, they had like literally a banner that was like 3 feet tall and 6 feet wide, okay? They have a banner, And the guy, and he's getting this out, and he's enrolling this banner. I go, what in the hell is he doing? And he's putting this banner, and he's tying it to the fence around the tower. And I looked at it, and I go, what the hell is this? He says, these are all our warnings things. And there were like 12 different things on there, on this banner. Warning, do not approach while construction workers were on the tower. Warning, And essentially, his whole deal is, if any one of an OSHA inspector, an FAA inspector, FCC inspector, county inspector, state inspector, federal inspector showed up while they were on that tower site, if he didn't have one of those warnings on there, they would get a violation. I'm going like, okay.
Yeah, of course. But Brad, you have such a blatant disregard for worker safety. It's really appalling.
For what now?
For worker safety?
I do not.
I mean, think of how many lives that banner saved.
Yeah, well, John, you're making my point. It saved no lives because of the fact that the true worker safety is the company who's working with them. That's the one I think I told you where the guy opened up the back of the trailer where they had all the equipment, and it had a big sign that says "No Chinese Hardware." And I go, what does that mean? He says we're not allowed to use any Chinese rigging equipment, any safety equipment that's made in China. And I go, why is that? He goes, it's junk. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
And I said to him, how do you know? Because this is the latest thing that, like, I shouldn't say the latest thing, that a lot of these Chinese companies, they produce all this stuff and they stamp it with like UL approved, when it's not, you know what I mean? And they don't care.
Yeah. You keep talking about this, and in 2028, we're going to have the governor candidates talking about banning Chinese tools from Missouri, because we've already banned farmland.
Well, have we banned them? Is that official now? Are they officially not?
That'll come in 2027, the year before the election. I think they'll pass that.
When we have sports betting.
Yeah, and when we have math for meth.
Okay, next break, next block. I'm going to give you a warning. If you have, this is actually a funny story. If you have one of those automated vacuum cleaners, the Roombas, whatever you call it, if you have one of those, be forewarned. You're not going to believe this crazy story I have. And it's not BS. It's true story. It is honest to God true story. And where's our government protecting us from things like this? They've let us down because this is happening all the time.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?